What is the most expensive thing you've broken unintentionally? Well, I have broken a lot of things. It's very common for me to break chairs or, sometimes toilet seats, stuff like that. And that's not, I wouldn't say expensive, to replace. Off the top of my head, the most expensive thing that I've broken is actually my brother's couch. I sat right in the middle of the couch and the entire thing just snapped in half. And my brother was not very happy, understandably so, but his wife, on the other hand, was actually pretty happy because she wanted to get a new couch. So I kind of helped his wife out, even though he was not very happy with me. It was pretty funny. And it ended up working out okay because I wasn't hurt. Not that I would get hurt breaking a couch, but I wasn't hurt. His wife got a new couch and they were able to get rid of that one. So it worked out. So that was probably the most expensive thing that I can think of, although I have broken a lot of things over the years. This question is from Davis Windsor. How long did you train before entering your first strongman competition? So when I entered my first strongman competition, I actually did not train with any strongman equipment whatsoever. I only trained at a normal gym and just went and entered and did all the events without actually getting to prepare specifically for those events, and just jumped in head first. I mean, that's something that I think, today the attitude of a lot of the younger competitors is that, they have to train all the events and they have to be comfortable with all the events. And if there's something that's challenging to them, they're not going to enter the contest. And I had the exact opposite mentality. I wanted a challenge. I wanted to dive in head first. I'm not saying that I did great with all of the events without preparing for them, but I did all right. I did enough to win that contest. And then I actually pretty much entered my first 3 strongman contests without training with specific strongman equipment. So, the first Atlas stones that I loaded were in a competition. The first super yoke that I carried was in a competition. The first farmers that I did was in a competition. So, I'm not saying maybe, especially the level that I tried to go to without training for any of the events. I mean, the second super yoke, for example, I ever carried was 900 pounds. I'd never trained with it. And I had to pick it up and put it down a lot, but I ended up finishing it. Things like that, I wish in hindsight I would have had more access, to the equipment. So I would say that if you have access to equipment, it would be a lot smarter to actually try to train with the equipment, but there's a fine line. And sometimes without being fully prepared, it's good to jump into a contest and test yourself and kind of put yourself up against it to figure out where you're at and figure out how you can handle that competitive environment from a mental standpoint as well as a physical standpoint. This question is from Joda Honey. How much of an impact has having another baby boy in the house affected your training? And how awesome is it as a father to see little Braxton going around lifting and flipping everything? Haha. This is a great question. I would be lying to you if the addition of Kellen, our second son, hasn't had somewhat of an impact on me, but my training time has not changed. I'm still able to come out and train. It's just time management during the day has changed a little bit. So, I for example, have to help a little bit more than I did before with Braxton. I always tried to help, but it's something where my wife Carrie is super supportive of me and knows when I have to train, when I have to go do recovery work, when I have to do all of those things. And so we work together, as a couple to manage all of that. But, I have had to adjust a little bit, but I still train at the same time. I still am able to get in everything that I need to get in. It's just that, like I said, time management needs to be a little bit better with the addition of our second son. And the second part of your question, how awesome is it as a dad? I don't know if there's anything better. Seriously, I think Braxton the things that he does and without any prompting. I mean, he just picks things up. He, flips them and pushes his little cars around or whatever like that. That type of stuff. We're not asking him to do that. He just wants to do it and he thinks that it's fun. And so, that's something it's just awesome. I mean, there's no other way to put that. It's really, really an incredible thing to watch as a dad. This question is from E. Goodrich 1234. What is the hardest competition you have ever competed in and why? Thinking off the top of my head, I'm going to answer this by saying there was a strongman competition called Fortissimus that was held in 2008 and 2009. And it was literally a strength decathlon, 10 events done in 2 days. So 5 heavy events each day for 2 days. And that determined the winner. So, in reference, World's Strongest Man, for example, only does 6 events. The Arnold Classic started with 6 events, now does 5 events only. And it's just a completely different ball game. I personally think that not only was that the hardest competition, but it was one of the best competitions I ever did, from the simple fact that you can't have any weaknesses to win a strongman competition like that. With 5 or 6 events, you can get lucky and not have your weaknesses tested. But with 10 events, testing every single facet of strength, there's no way to hide. You can't get away from it. And it was brutal. I mean, in 2009, that was by far and away the hardest contest, and everybody walked out of there certainly tired. Took a few weeks to recover from that, but it was something that was awesome. So I personally think that World's Strongest Man should be contested over a minimum of 8 events, but most likely 10 would be better. And unfortunately, I don't think that's ever going to happen, for TV purposes or whatever. But that was the hardest contest I think that I've ever done, with the Arnold being second to that, because some of the Arnold events, especially when we were doing, the really heavy Arnold competitions, those literally were very, very hard to prepare for and also brutal to compete in, because every event was so heavy. So, the Arnold is a close second, especially if we would add more events of the Arnold. Absolutely, I think it would have been harder. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question on the hardest contest I've ever done. This question is from Harabi Blanco. What's the most significant injury you've sustained while competing? Overall, knock on wood, I've been pretty lucky staying away from big injuries while competing in strongman. I would say that the worst injury that I've ever had from actual strongman competition was detaching my left bicep in 2012. We had an event that was an axle clean only at the Arnold Classic, which was a replacement for the Atlas Stone event that year, and or they took the Atlas Stone out and added that in. And I still don't understand why we did that event, to be honest, because I tore my bicep. Benedict Magnuson was training for the competition and tore his bicep as well on that event. But that was something that bicep injuries or ruptures happen to a lot of guys that compete in strongman. So that's something that I had to overcome, come back from, with the surgery, it's actually better and stronger than it was before I detached it. So that's probably the worst. And then maybe the second worst is the rupture of my plantar fascia this year before World's Strongest Man. So other than that, obviously the normal bumps and bruises and strains and, that type of stuff that goes along with competing in strongman, which I could list a mile-long list of different things that I've done that to. But those are the most significant injuries that I've had directly from the sport of strongman. This question is from Aim An Yu, and it's a good follow-up actually to the last question that we had. How do you prevent injuries from happening? So this is something that I get asked a lot, and I think probably the biggest thing that you need to learn, especially when you're training for any type of strength sport, whether whatever it is, powerlifting, strongman, CrossFit, anything that's demanding physically on your body, you have to learn how to listen to your body. So a lot of times if something's hurting or not feeling right, you have to listen to that and back off and not push it and then work on it yourself or go get some treatment done on it, before it becomes a big problem or a major injury. So a lot of times your body will kind of tell you if it's overtrained or something's wrong, but you just have to learn how to listen to it. And then honestly, the best way is preventative maintenance, basically. So you want to be constantly working on your body and getting treatment done if you can. Stuff like that will go a long way. And even though you may not have an injury there, if something's a little bit too tight or not moving right, that type of thing, it's important to work on that constantly so that you don't have a bigger injury or problem. And all too often, and this is even for me sometimes, I'll kind of push through things and not listen to those warning signs as much as I should. And then, something kind of pops up and is a little bit bigger deal than it should be. So that general maintenance is huge, listening to your body and just being aware of what you're doing, training smart, allowing recovery time. All these things are big factors in preventing injuries. This question is from Richard Warner Photography. What would you rather achieve? 5th World Strongest Man title or deadlift world record? Now that's a good question. And, obviously both of those things, huge accomplishments. If I had to choose, I would say pretty much hands down a 5th World Strongest Man title, just because that would put me even into a more elite group of World's Strongest Man competitors. Mariusz Pudzianowski is the only man that has won World's Strongest Man 5 times. So joining him with 5 titles would be incredible. Although the deadlift world record is, it's something that's very appealing as well. Because the deadlift is just, it's the standard, I think, especially in strongman and in strength. How much weight you can deadlift is a huge thing. And being able to break Eddie's record that he set with the 500 kilo deadlift, that would be something historic as well. So I think if I could wrap it all into one, it would be awesome to break that deadlift world record at World's Strongest Man while winning my 5th World's Strongest Man title. I know it's not fair. I did choose one or the other, but it would be really cool to be able to do both of those things. So thanks for the question, man. That was a good one. This question is from Nate H24. What was your athletic background before strongman? So before I got into strongman, I was a basketball player. I played basketball growing up all the time, through high school. As kind of at that time, one of the biggest sports, or kind of the sport for my hometown that everybody followed and got behind was the basketball team. So I loved playing basketball in high school, and then I was able to go to the next level and play in college on a full ride scholarship. So I got all my school taken care of and had a lot of fun, learned a lot through college with playing basketball. And when I was done at the end of college, I was happy to be done playing basketball. At that time, my love had kind of shifted to lifting weights and trying to get stronger. And so it was a perfect fit at that time when I found the sport of strongman, because it was a great competitive outlet for me, and it allowed me to lift weights and compete, head to head with other guys in strongman competition. So it was a kind of a perfect fit, and gaining the athleticism from the sport of basketball, I think has helped me a lot through my strongman career. So I'm really happy I did it that way, and that kind of helped me to be successful as a strongman, in my opinion.
Bye.